Ladies and gentlemen, the Tennessee Capitol has recently experienced what you can call their own January 6th with protesters trying to interfere with the democratic process. AOC thinks you can't earn $1 billion, and Katie Porter thinks that California's economy cannot survive without illegal immigrants.
Tennessee Republicans have passed a new congressional map that will likely strip Democrats of their one remaining seat in Congress. As the final votes were cast, one Democratic lawmaker stood on her desk in defiance. Minutes later, Democrats grew emotional while protesters around them chanted and screamed.
So, as SCOTUS dismantling this racial gerrymandering all across the South, Tennessee has taken the lead in making sure that their redistricting is done first, and all these liberals are freaking out, especially this one Democratic representative, Justin Pearson.
What's wrong with you? What's wrong with you? You stupid mother.
So this Justin Pearson guy just explodes at this police officer for trying to keep the peace, calling him MFer and yelling boy like he thinks he's still in the 1950s. And he's also on MS Now trying to plead his case of how black people are still oppressed like it's the 1950s and they just can't vote now like they used to.
What we saw yesterday in the state of Tennessee was a political lynching. It is very much an era of... What we saw yesterday in the state of Tennessee was a political lynching. What we saw yesterday in the state of Tennessee was a political lynching. It is very much an era of retribution that we are entering into in the United States of America across the South, where 12 to 20 United States House seats that are black majority are at risk of being taken away, and nearly 200 seats for state House members and state Senate members are likely to be taken away by the rise of white supremacy and its attempt to solidify its power on behalf of the biggest white supremacist in the United States of America, which is the President of the United States. I was expelled and my other black colleague was expelled from the Tennessee General Assembly standing up against gun violence, while our white colleague was not. That's not accidental or coincidental. This is a part of who the Tennessee General Assembly is. But in this particular moment, we all have to stand up, speak up, and fight back from whatever positions we have in every part of this country. At the State House, in the governor's mansions, we need to be advocating and fighting and resisting, because what just happened in Tennessee was the largest and the most swift disenfranchisement of black people that we have seen in at least a century.
Okay, fine. White supremacy, great. Now, please show us the receipts. Show us how blacks are still disenfranchised. Can they still not marry white women? Can they not vote? Can they not get loans? And so on and so forth, and any of these other Jim Crow kind of laws that have come out in the past? Please, let us know. We're waiting. Notice how, though, they can never provide receipts. They only make these threats to try to scare people and to think, oh, if I come out against them, I'm going to be considered racist. And maybe I am racist, I just don't know it. So I better just agree with them and let them have their way. Also, these lines are being redrawn because they're discriminatory in the first place. Yeah, back in that day, they had a purpose because blacks didn't have the same rights that they do now, but we're in a different era. But according to Representative Pearson here, we're still very much in the 1950s, and it sounds like he just wants to keep it that way. And one more thing, I'm pretty sure the quote-unquote white supremacist in the Oval Office has done a lot more for black people than this guy has. All he seems to be wanting to do is to keep people victims, and when you're a victim, you can never ever get any advantage in life. And like I mentioned at the start of this video, there is a similarity to January 6th, not in the fact of the violence, at least not that I've seen, but in the fact that these protesters were trying to interrupt or interfere with the democratic process.
Breaking news on redistricting to tell you about now. Tennessee Governor Bill Lee just signed a new congressional map into law, splitting up the state's only majority black district. The move carves up the Memphis-based district held by longtime Democratic Congressman Steve Cohen into 3 districts, spreading those Democratic voters over multiple districts and putting Republicans in a position to gain a seat in November's election. Earlier today, the Republican-led state legislature passed the new map despite protests from Democratic lawmakers and members of the public, both in and outside the chambers. Tennessee is now the 9th state to vote to approve a new congressional map ahead of the midterms.
So really, there's nothing here for them to protest because there's been black people elected all over the place in many different offices, and there's no laws that are saying that they shouldn't be up there or that they won't be. So they're really just assuming that because some people who are losing their seats because they happen to be black, there must be racism, right? People with this victim 1950s mentality, like this Pearson guy, this is what they're going to think. However, as I understand it, there's already some people, there's some candidates that might be going in to replace the black people that are no longer there, the black Democrats. They might be black Republicans coming in there. Are they just the same as black Democrats to these people? I don't know. You tell me in the comments. What do you think?
You can't earn $1 billion.
That's right.
You just can't earn that.
That's exactly correct.
You can get market power. You can break rules. You can do all sorts of things. You can abuse labor laws.
Yep.
You can pay people less than what they're worth.
Yep.
But you can't earn that, right?
That's
and
right.
so you have to create a myth that since you didn't earn that, you have to create a myth of earning it.
So what does AOC think earn means? Does she think it means just trading your time for money perpetually like the working class she claims to represent? She doesn't understand, though, one thing. The billionaires, they worked a ton of hours for no pay on something that may not work, but they stuck with it. In fact, you can argue based on that. They worked harder and they earned it more than those who just trade their time for money. Elon Musk, the richest person in the world, worked 7 days a week, slept on the factory floor when he was starting Tesla, and worked 17 hours a day, every day. He got a lot of investors to come in, some government grants, and used a lot of his own money that he had earned from other ventures, okay? And now it's made him one of the richest men in the world. I'd say he earned it based on that. So this is Jeff Bezos working out of his garage when he started Amazon, and he used to deliver packages of books to the post office to be sent off to customers. Now, he worked and worked and worked and worked and didn't make a lot of money in the beginning, of course. He scaled up and created a system that Amazon works on today that delivers millions of packages a day. Now, he can't, of course, fit millions in the car, so he had to create the system. But this is a problem that people like AOC and those with her mindset have. They just hear somebody's a billionaire and they assume that just magically one day they woke up and they had $1 billion+ in their bank account, right? No, that's not how it works. Over time, you accumulate, they grow, and it snowballs, right? It builds on each other and grows and grows and grows. So I'd like to see AOC do something like that. And just when you think her billionaire comment was one of the dumbest things that she could ever say, she says this.
The American Revolution was against the billionaires of their time. And we're declaring independence from such an extreme marriage of wealth and power and the state.
Any idiot knows, I guess, except AOC, that the American Revolutionary War was started and fought because the British were taxing the American colonists and they didn't have any say-so in the British government or what was happening to the colonies. It wasn't fought because they were against the billionaires at the time. Hell, the people who started the Revolutionary War were, quote unquote, the billionaires of their time. They were the wealthy, they were the elite, and they formed a country and a system to where everyone had the opportunity to prosper, unlike communism. But we all really know what she's trying to do here. She's trying to get her practice in for a potential 2028 presidential run. But there's just one problem. She has a very, very limited intellectual faculty when it comes to politics, or I would say just about anything else. And just like Kamala Harris and her other colleague Jasmine Crockett, they need to know how to stay in their lane and stick to what they're good at, which is gaslighting their constituents with empty promises they know they could never give them. But let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Do you think AOC would benefit from a economics and basic money handling for dummies kind of course? Or do you think she'll never get out of her communist rut?
No,
Okay, all right.
no.
All right, very good.
As governor, would you push to deport them? And they're one of the only ways that our state has been growing in recent years.
Katie Porter has just said the quiet part out loud. California is the front-running state for services to illegal immigrants, and with laws relaxed on there. They let illegal immigrants come in and go into these social programs and these quote-unquote safety nets to keep them there. In the fact that the Democrats are the proponents of these programs, they vote for them and they keep them in power. It's really no wonder that the Democrats want to keep these programs going, especially at the expense of the taxpayer. It was actually brought up in a debate question here.
To clarify, Mr. Steyer, on the question of health care for the undocumented,
I said everybody in California
So you would
has a right to health care. And let's answer this
California
out.
should fund that.
The truth of the matter is, immigrants built this state. Immigrants make this state run.
Yeah.
Legal. The fact of the matter is, we had a broken immigration system, and now you want to victimize the people who are working here and making the state run.
Thank you,
As
sir.
Antonio said, try and get rid of them. You can't do it.
Let's go to Sheriff Bianco. Your thoughts on this idea of undocumented health care funding?
It's ridiculous. When are we going to draw the line at any other crime? It's illegal. They entered the country illegally. We're not going to incentivize them to come here to take more of the resources that regular Californians aren't getting. The ones that are struggling here, that are here legally, they're not getting that. They're not getting free education. They're not getting free medical. They're not getting free food. They're not getting all of those things that the illegal ones are getting. And we're somehow celebrating that when the legal immigrants here don't get that. It makes absolutely no sense. And healthcare, no one's talking about, how about we try and make people healthy?
So, Congresswoman Porter, your thoughts on the idea of funding health care for undocumented immigrants statewide?
Yes.
Yes, and
that's, by the way, what I think Californians deserve as answers to these questions, Alex.
And for critics who say that we can't afford it, what do you say to that?
We can't afford to have people who are sick, who are making the rest of us sick. When anyone doesn't have care, the rest of us are at risk. When people don't get vaccinations, when they don't go to the doctor, they wind up in the emergency room. They cause longer lines for the rest of us. They make our healthcare system, they push it to the brink. And that was exactly where we were when we expanded healthcare and health coverage to make sure that everyone can be healthy.
Katie Porter has yelled at her staff saying, get on my f***ing shot. But at one point, do you think Katie Porter is going to tell illegal immigrants, get out of my f***ing state? What she's describing here is it's a simple fix. Turn off the faucet, right? She's worried about all these people coming into the hospitals and getting sick and overwhelming the healthcare system. Well, that's why you need to be more efficient with your funding, and you need to be more pointed and targeted, and work on getting rid of fraud, waste, and abuse. Don't put everyone on Medi-Cal, right? California's Medicaid, and don't make it so that illegal immigrants can come to the state and get these benefits so they'll never leave, and they'll create more and more and more and more problems for the California residents. It's real simple. But then again, as I mentioned in this other video, they really just want more people so they can stay in power. That's all it's really about. And also, what Tom Steyer says is that we can't get rid of them. Of course you can. I just explained how. You cut off their system. You cut off the assistance. You cut off the services. Everything. California is the #1 in giving all these programs to illegals at the expense of the taxpayer. You cut them off of that, or gradually wean them off, whatever's best. Now you have more money to better lift up the healthcare, bring more people in, pay people more qualified people, brings in more people who want to live in a place that has good healthcare, because people want to be healthy and live a long time. And the more they live, the more taxes they pay, right? And speaking of illegal immigrants, we got to talk about ICE and how these candidates have discussed and answered questions about what they're going to do if they become governor of California with this ICE issue.
As governor, I will investigate ICE. We will prosecute ICE. We will convict ICE if they have violated the law.
I'm in favor of abolishing ICE.
How about this? Instead of abolishing and looking for ways to convict them, how about not letting out illegal immigrants in the community, especially the violent ones? How about when you get somebody and you check their immigration status after they've been arrested for a crime, you call ICE, you call Homeland Security, and you let them know, hey, we have somebody here who's in the country illegally. Please ship them back to where they came from. That's why there's all these bans, or have been all these bans of roaming ICE agents on the streets, because they have to go and look for these people, because these Democrat sanctuary cities and states just keep releasing them back into the public, and it gets people like Laken Riley and Jocelyn Nungary killed. It's real simple. You just obey the law. It doesn't matter if it's Trump or Biden or Obama or anyone else who's in the Oval Office. The laws need to be adhered to the same way. But let me know, what do you guys think? Do you think there's hope for California to have their first Republican, or first in a while, Republican governor? Do you think they're going to stick with the Democrats and just get worse and worse and worse? Please let me know in the comments below, and thank you for watching.